image processing, for the stock prediction, for the you can say price prediction of the bitcoins, right? So let me start with this image. Can you identify what you can infer from these images? Anyone, please, you may type your answer in the chat box. From there, I can see what these images actually represent. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what these images are? Anyone?
So it shows the era without computer.
It shows the without computer. Okay. So what it says, how it look like without computers.
It is easy to think, but difficult to calculate. So there are lots of people thinking that.
From this, we can infer that we are good with the images, right? I can see the image, then I can identify that there is a person who's holding a guitar and children are surrounding him. While the second one is, I can solve this, right? But it may take some time. While in the recognition part, I didn't give that much, I didn't spend that much time, right? So while my computers they are good with the numbers, but they have issues in locating the people in this room. So with the help of the machine learning, we try to uh, teach the computers that using their computational power, they can solve such type of the problems. Like uh, going further, again, I hope all of you recognize that is the second image, right? So the question is how we recognize it. So the recognition is based on our past experience, right? If we have encountered this image earlier, then we can say, okay, this belongs to the parliament, right? While the first one, we cannot exactly say that of where this particular image is, or it is an image or a sculpture, right? Because it depends on our past knowledge. So we try to mimic the behavior of learning, right? So as you can see in this JF as well, that one cat, she rings the bell and person fed her, right? So this feeding means giving some feedback, some rewards. So the other cat learned from that, and it also tried to mimic the same pattern, and accordingly gather the maximum reward, right? So learning is constructing or modifying the representation of what is being experienced. If with every iteration your rewards increases, then we can say that my system is learning. So we try to take or transfer this learning in the real-time problem as well. Right, so we have the computer vision problems. For example, this face recognition is nowadays very common. Style transferring and image quality enhancement, object detection, classification, gesture recognition. All these are the problem with respect to the computer vision, and we will see that how the deep learning will help us to solve these problems. Then the another type of the problem is the sequential based data, right? So what will be the stock price of a particular stock, right? What will be the Bitcoin price? Can we generate the music from the scratch, right? If we have the past data of AR Rahman music, then can we generate similar kind of the pattern that will be developed by the AR Rahman, and likewise with the help of this we can also nowadays working on this COVID-19 prediction models as well. Besides that, we have the prediction model for the temperature or the monsoon, right? So all these are the sequential modeling problem. We also have the data nowadays uh, to help uh, the you can say in the medical field also, right? So based on the feedback, we can divide the machine learning into supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. So in case of supervised, we have the training data with us, and then uh, from that training data, we try to formulate some model, right? What we do, we have a function. We try to make a function f in such a way so that whenever a new test data is given to you, then by looking at the past model, we can predict the answer, right? So, for example, over here we are having the example of the apple, tomato, cow, etc., dog. So we try to fit that. So in the supervised learning, we have the label data with us. For example, this is of car, this is of motorcycle, and then based on that, we test a new sample. So that sample try to fit the model and then give some error. Then we try to update that error, try to update the weights based on that error, and then we update the weights again. So there are various supervised learning techniques. Linear regression is there, logistic regression, neural network, decision tree, SVM. These are the traditional techniques. This is supervised learning is again of two types, regression and the classification. In regression, we actually predict a particular integer, right? And in the classification, we try to identify the class. But in real time, our data is either unavailable, or if it is available, then it's not in the that format which we can directly use. So in that case, the question is how we should proceed. So how we can proceed? We can identify some inherent parameters from the data set itself. For example, from this data can be divided based on some inherent property. So depending on the user, for example, I can divide this based on the shape, based on the color. Right, so these are my inherent features. So this is actually unsupervised learning. Now the third type of the learning is the reinforcement learning, where there is nobody who tells you whether it is good or bad. So based on the rewards itself, based on the feedback from the environment, my agent takes some decisions. Right, so that decision is based on the rewards. So you may give these rewards randomly, and then with the experience with the different, you can say, iterations, you try to learn to update the weights. Right, so the best example of the reinforcement learning is the study time. So if you perform good in the studies, right, then you may get reward, and if you fail or if you have done some wrong things, then accordingly you get the punishment as well. So we have the positive reward and the negative reward for in the reinforcement learning. So let's take another example of bicycle riding. So here, if my parents are with me, then it is an example of the supervised learning because there is somebody who tells you okay, this is how you ride a bicycle. But if there is nobody with
Sir,
you,
there is some air sound in the background, so please fix it.
uh, just a second. Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, now it's clear, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So I was talking about the how we learn the bicycle riding, right? So we start randomly, and let's say we choose the left direction, and angle also we choose randomly. Let's say 45 degree. We fall down. Then uh, again we try to change that angle, and again we fell down. So we conclude that okay, this left side is wrong, right? The choice of the left side. So we change the side. Then again we play with the angles, and there's one instance when I was riding at 90 degree, I was able to ride the bicycle without falling. So in this experience, I conclude that if I move from left or right direction towards the 90 degree, then I can achieve my goal. And my goal over here is riding a bicycle without falling. So in this, I have to choose my states and the actions. So the state are left, right, and straight. For this particular case, my actions are also left, right, and straight. So you can see that when I move from left to left, the reward or the weights in the experience matrix is 2. It may also it may vary as well, but with time, this matrix will saturate. Means there will be no further updation in that. So this is how we learn also in our daily life, right? Throughout our whole life, we try to fill this experience matrix only. And with age, with the lot of experience, we say now that we are expert in that field. Expert in that field means your that experience matrix table has saturated now. So this is the gist of the reinforcement learning. Today we are not going to detail in of the reinforcement learning, but this is one of the learning that is very close to the human being. People are also exploring this for the stock prediction in today's world. So deep learning is actually an example of artificial neural network where we take the idea of the uh, neuron from the biological brain, right? And then based on that, we try to make some mathematical models, and that mathematical model helped me to learn the things, right? So what we do over here, we this is your neuron, one neuron. So likewise we have and 1,000 billions of the neurons in your brain, and If we talk about one particular neuron, then it is considered as the mathematically it is considered as the summation of the inputs, right? So let's say I am having three input x1, x2, and x3. Then summation of that followed by some threshold, right, or activation function. So this is how we can also a model. We have transferred the biological neuron to the artificial neuron. So we have taken that idea and we called it as a perceptron. So in the perceptron, we have some input with us, and correspondingly, based on the significance of the input, we associate some weights. We also add a bias value in it, so that uh, if the inputs are 0, 0, 0, then uh, still your system, your model should work, right? So we have the uh, summation. Then after summation, we apply the threshold on it. This is a non-linear threshold. Then we get the our output. So because it is an example of the supervised learning, so we already have our desired output. So based on the difference between the desired output and your actual output, we identify the error and then we update the weights again. Right? But this perceptron is not able to solve the non-linear problem, so we have to use the multi perceptron model. This is similar to the combination of the different neurons, right? So earlier I was having only one neuron, but now in the neural network or feed forward neural network, I have the combination of the different neurons, and I have arranged them in the different layers, right? So input layer is there, then hidden layer is there, and then output layer. And all the neurons may or may not be connected to each other, but in simple traditional feed forward neural network, all the input uh, values or input nodes are interconnected to each other. Then we have the some weights associated with them. Then we take the sum, and correspondingly give we take this forward. So this is known as the feed forward. So once we get the output, we compare it with our result, right? And then we get the error and then we backpropagate it. So let's say I need to identify the cost of a laptop. So the parameters are screen size, hard disk size, processor speed, RAM speed, battery time, and likewise. So these are the human engineered features, right? So it may be possible that there may be some other feature that I didn't consider, and each input I have associated some weight to it. So to deal with the unconsidered features, we have to add the bias, and the weight of the bias or the value of the bias is always 1, and the weight of the bias is b, right? So then we sum all these values, summation, then we apply some activation function. It may be your sigmoid. Additionally, sigmoid was very popular, but nowadays ReLU is one of the activation function. And we get the output. Then the output is the cost of the output computed in this case. Then we identify the lost function. Then accordingly we update, right? Now, if we take or if we discuss why there is a need of these hidden layers. So these hidden layers actually you can say combine the different inputs. For example, let's say in this particular slide, I have considered my input as the size room, bedroom, number of the bedrooms, zip code, and district wealth. And based on that, I need to identify what is the price, what will be the price of a particular house. So I didn't consider some other inputs or parameters or factors, right? But uh, I am using the hidden layer, so maybe possible that the size room and number of the bedroom uh, is the combination of these input is the new input, that is the family size, right? So your system automatically identify the remaining or factors. So for the illustration purpose only, I have considered that hidden layer is considering the family size, walkability from the house, school quality of the house, likewise. Right. So if we talk about the computer vision problem, so in that these features are the of high level. So for example, in these diagram, you have to tell the system that these are my inputs, right? For example, if you are talking about the face recognition, then your nose, eye, mouth, maybe the features, and likewise for the other images. So in case of the face recognition, earlier we used to identify the key point or the facial points, and we used to give the input, these four features as the input, right? But if somebody else identify the distance between the eyes or nose and the ear, then there is a new feature. So maybe possible that your algorithm give better result. So the major problem with the traditional technique was that we have to give the features uh, hand coded, right? Or handcrafted features we used to give. But in today's world, we give the whole image as such, and we says that okay, you every pixel is input. Now run your model and then identify uh, whose face is this, right? So in the traditional, as I told you, that you have to hand give the handcrafted features, then give it to the classification, right? While in case of deep learning, these features are automatically identified. So if we talk about the deep neural network, this deep neural network means I am having more than two layers, right? So it may be fully connected. So for example, in this case, I am having L layers, right? Layer 1, layer 2 up to layer L. And this act as a, so all these layer act as your feature extractor. Then you give your uh, uh, you compare your output. So the neural network act as a feature detector at multiple layer, and the connection between the layers or the weight between the layers can be thought of a feature detector of filters, right? So maybe consider that this first layer identify the edges if it is a problem of the face recognition. Then the second layer identify the part of the faces, right? Or the objects, combination of different edges. Then combining these objects, we recognize the faces, right? So lowest layer weight detect the generic feature, that is the pixel values, and higher level weights detect more specific features. So we use deep learning because the hand engineering features are time consuming, brittle, and not scalable, right? So but the issue with the deep learning is that if my image size is 28 by 28 cross 3, then when I fed my input to this network, when the total number of the weights that I have to deal is 2352, how that's 28 by 28, then the connection between the different neurons, so I have to consider all these. If my image size is 200 by 200, then the number of the parameters that I need to deal is much larger. And if the size is of, let's say, 48 megapixel, right, then you can imagine how big that size is. So we have to deal with a huge number of the parameters in the fully connected network. So we have to find out some other way, because if we are using all the inputs as or all the pixel values as your input, then it will take a lot of time to compute them, right? So we identify, we try to solve this using the CNN. Then the another limitation is the that we don't have the memory, right? So it is not idle with the model sequencing of the observation in real time. As I told you that when we are dealing with the sequential data, I have to maintain not only the current state but also what was the input at the previous state or before that. So that sequential information is not there in this case. So to solve the first problem, we try to use the convolution. So in case of fully connected, we are considering all the features, while uh, in case of the locally connected network, we uh, fix a particular filter, we run it all over the image, and then we extract the feature. So it allow each hidden unit to connect only a small subset. What I mean by this is, so let's say consider this example. So can you recognize this image? ये किसकी है? Please type in the chat box so that I may proceed. Father of the nation. How did you identify that? Because यहाँ तो image given नहीं है, but there are certain parameters, right, with which I can see or I can recognize that this picture belongs to Mahatma Gandhi ji from the specs. Yes. So he used to wear that special kind of the spec, and based on that, we are able to identify. So what we can conclude from this? We can conclude that there is no need of the whole pixel value or whole image. By the key features only, we can recognize a particular person or particular pattern, right? So this is a convolution. So the idea of the convolution is uh, just a sec. I need not to use the whole image as such. Right. In this video, what was happening that I divide this dog image into 4 subparts. Even after that also, I was able to recognize that it belongs to a dog. Right. So this tells me the power of the convolution. Right. So this in the convolution neural network, we have 3 layers: the convolution and the pooling. They act as the feature extracted part or feature learning part in it, and then fully connected, that is used as a classification method. So what actually convolution is? We have 2 matrices with us: the matrix on which, or the image matrix on which we want to perform or we want to extract the feature, and another is the filter matrix. Now this filter matrix is slide all over the image matrix, right? So let's say I'm having a 5 by 5 image matrix and a filter image of 3 by 3. Then I slide that image or that filter matrix all over the uh, your image. Then I got this features. So these are the features now. So with the help of this, I can identify the edges depending on the type of the filter that I'm using. So let's say this is the vertical edge. I need to identify in that. If the values are like this, then using the same filter, I can identify the edges again. Not only the vertical edges, I can also identify the horizontal edges depending on the different type of the filter, right? So we can use this filter for identifying the different edges. These edges are your features, basically, right? Because earlier also we try to identify the different features. So based on the different type of the filters, you may identify the edges at the horizontal level or the vertical level. Or if I want to identify the edges at 45 degree, 70 degree, 180 degree, 270 degree, and like that, right? So I need to update these weights. So but the beauty of this particular algorithm is that I need not to assign the values manually. Your convolution neural network automatically estimate the weight of the filter. So this is one of the parameters estimation method or the objective of your CNN, right? So it learned from the different examples. Then we have the concept of the padding, because when we apply the convolution, earlier if it is a 5 by 5 matrix, then we have seen that the uh, convolved feature or convolved matrix become 3 by 3, right? So the output got shrink. So to overcome that, we use the padding. And the another limitation was that if your values are at the edges, these, then they are considered only few times in the overall uh, feature extraction method. So maybe possible that if your object is at the corner, then we left the features of that particular object. So to overcome that, we use the concept of padding. Then the another concept used in the convolution is the stride. So in case of stride, it defines the number of the nodes a filter move between the two consecutive convolution operation. So in the example that we considered earlier, the stride was 1. So it means the filter move 1 pixel at a time. If I am having a stride of 2, then we move the filter to 2 pixel at a time, right? So so far we have considered that my matrix is of single dimension, but if it is a color image, then I am having RGB value. So the depth is 3 in that case, as you can see. So correspondingly, I need to apply the filters, or number of the channels will be similar to the number of the channel in your image, right? And each channel is responsible for identifying the features in that particular uh, band. For example, for the red, I am using a different kernel. For the green channel, I am using a different kernel. For the blue, I am using a different kernel. And then at the end, I am combining all these together using some predefined formula. The another method is that if I am dealing with the color image, then I have 3 channels, and similar to that, I may have more than one filter as well, because over here I have one filter only that identify the vertical edge, let's say, right? If I want to identify the horizontal edge, then again I need to use a different filter. If I need to identify the 45-degree edges, then I can use a third type of the filter, and the depth or the channel in that filter will be again 3, because over here we are dealing with the RGB values, 3 dimension data is there. So based on this, we identify the 4 by 4 and 4 by 4 two filters in your output. If I am considering only these two filters, one is for the vertical, another is for the horizontal, then the combination is again 4 by 4 cross 2. So this particular slide illustrate what I just said, that over here I am having the filter one, right, for the horizontal case, and let's say for the vertical your filter 2, and correspondingly I am having the output. So if we combine the over all the layer of the convolution, so in case of the convolution we apply some filters, and then once we got the result, we need to convert that result into a non-linear way, right? So we can apply the different activation functions. So ReLU is applied over here. So as you can see here, that ReLU basically this is the figure of the ReLU. So if the value is less than 0, then it is 0, otherwise it is your input only. So over here 15 will be 15 only, your this minus 10 will be now 10 converted to 0, minus 110 will be converted to 0. So in this way, this ReLU introduce the non-linearity in the non-convolution network, or in whatever the network, if you are using this activation function, so it introduced the non-linearity in that. The other popular non-linear functions are tanh and the sigmoid. So that was the first layer. Then after that we use the pooling in that only after convolution. So this pooling is used to downsample the uh, data. So it reduces the number of the parameter when the input image is too large, right? Because it consider on the or it is based on the hypothesis that the nearby pixel values are similar in nature. So there are different type of the pooling methods or approaches. Max pooling is there, average pooling is there, your sum pooling is there. So in case of the max pooling, it is most commonly used. So out of this matrix, or this is space. Let's say if I am using a 2 by 2 filter and a stride of 2, then 1 1 5 6, out of these the maximum value is 6, so we consider that in the final output. So the combination of your convolution and the pooling is considered as one layer in CNN. So likewise you may have 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, or up to n layer, as it depends on your problem, and accordingly we have the different version of the CNN networks, right? AlexNet is there, GoogleNet is there, Inception is there. So depending on the type of the layers or number of the layers, they have different names. Then we flatten our output, right? So at over here I am having 5 into 5 cross 16. Then I have flattened that into 400 values, and then this is your simple neural network. So in this I am having two fully connected layer uh, with the different hidden neurons in that, and after passing from these fully connected layer, I apply again the nonlinear activation function. Over here we have used the softmax. Generally we go with the softmax if it is a multi class problem. So in this case, the number of the parameters that I have to consider is, or I have to deal with, is much smaller than I need to consider in the fully connected deep neural network. So this is the beauty of the CNN network. The another type of the data is the sequential one. Your cryptocurrency or this Bitcoin data is also an example of the sequential data. Right. So let's take what example. Why? What is the need of considering such type of the data separately? So let's say, given this image, can you predict where it will go next? Any idea where it may go? Left, right, up, down? Yes. You may type to answer. Now we are talking about RNN, recurrent neural network. Yes. By looking at this particular instance only, we cannot predict, right, where it will go. But if we have the past information, then we can say it is moving in the right direction. So this is an example of sequential data, right? So based on this, similar to this, you can say you have your COVID-19 prediction data as well. In the last week, these are the number of the person who recovered. These are the figures of the death, and these are the number of the spread. Right now, based on the past data, we can predict in the next month or next week, this will be the pattern. So accordingly, you need to take some measures. So the sequential data are your time series data, or the audio or the video data, right? uh, Even your light is also example of the sequential data only. The popular example of the RNN or the sequential based problem is the NLP part problems, right? For example, this word is there, welcome to India, right? So the overall meaning can be understood only when we consider the past words as well. Whatever I am speaking and whatever I have discussed so far, if I am talking about this particular slide, so you are also having the past information of whatever I have discussed so far. Right. So based on the past data, we try to carry forward that information, and then based on that, we try to predict the new values. So let's say I need to identify, or I need to find what will be the next word. This morning I took my dog for a dash, right? So it is a walk or it is something else. So it depends on my past data. So the first idea is that we fix a window, right? For example, for a, so I try to identify the next value or next word after this for a, and I have converted this for a using the one hot encoding method. So in case of one hot encoding method, we convert that, or we represent a particular word with a specific code, right? I'm not going in detail of that how you will generate that one hot encoding. For that, you can refer more the NLP techniques. But the idea over here is that we can go with a fixed window, and then we can predict. But the issue in this approach is that if my word is very long, for example, friend, France is where I grew up, but now I live in Boston and I speak fluent dash. So this I speak fluent depends on the first few words, right? So we need information from the distant past to accurately predict the correct word. So to solve this, we have the another idea that we can use the entire sequence as a set of the count, right? So we build a bag of words based on it. Later on, we will see how we can convert this NLP based problem to the signal problems, because this problem is easy to understand. That's why I have considered this example. So in this, you can say each word represent or your each code 0 1 likewise, so represent a one word in it. But again, the issue with this approach is that if I am having the whole data with me instead of fixed data, for example, these two words, the food was good, not bad at all, while I am having the same words and the meaning of that is different. Now the food was bad, not good at all. So based on these, I cannot predict, because the inference of both the words or sentences are different. The third idea is that use a really big fixed window. Then again, in that the issue will be that each of these input has a separate parameters, and things we learn about the sequence would not transfer if they appear elsewhere in the sequence. So there should be a proper sequence. Then only we can solve these problems, right? So we when we try to apply the fast forward neural network on this type of the data, then we cannot handle the sequential structure of that. So such type of the data uh, can be solved using a different or a new deep learning method, right? So in that particular method, we have to handle the variable length sequences, track the long term dependencies. We need to maintain the information about the order as well, and we need to share the parameter across the sequence, as we did share in case of the CNN, so that it is not fully connected. So the solution for this is the RNN. It is the simplest neural network for the sequential data, where I am having this edge act as your hidden state for each step, and depends on the hidden state of the previous step. So if we uh, unfold this, then we can say that this is equal to this structure. It is repetition of the whole, right? So how it works, there are different sequences now, right? So the simplest form of the RNN is known as the vanilla RNN, where I am having an input and correspondingly I am having the output. It is similar to your feed forward neural network. The another type or the sequence in the RNN is many to one. In many to one, I am having different inputs and a single output, right? So the example of this may be the word in a document, and based on that you need to identify whether that document belongs to the sports section or the political section or the science section, and likewise. Then we have many to many as well. So many to many means I am having a given set of input, and correspondingly I am having a set of output. Let's say I give the input as the some English words, and correspondingly I am able to identify some uh, Hindi translation of that. So words in the Hindi translation. So the example of many to many is translation. Then we may have a different sequence for the many to many as well, where it is not required that all of them are connected in the same way. So if I am having a frame of the videos with me, So in that case, I need to identify the label to each frame. So this is also an example of your many to many. Your music generation is also an example of many to many, where I am having first few notes or sound of a music, or you can say then we need to generate the next pattern in that music, right? So this RNN are mostly applicable for the sequential problem, where we have the different inputs or different output. Regardless of the length of the input sequence, RNN will learn a fixed size embedding from the input sequences. So let's talk about the simple recurrent neural network or the vanilla neural network. In that, we are having the input vector with us and correspondingly the outer vector, output vector. And then in this, I am having the hidden layer. So this is your hidden layer. Now the output of this hidden layer is the input for the next hidden layer, right? And this is known as the recurrent nature. So because of that, it is known as the recurrent neural network. So we apply a recurrence relation every time step to proceed a sequence. So mathematically, we may say that the hidden state or the cell state is the combination of some function. It may be your sigmoid function or the uh, non-linear activation function, which consider the previous input and the input at that particular state. So the recurrent nature is basically because the same function and set of the parameters are used at every time step. Because this is what we discussed in case of the CNN as well, that we need not to extract all the features, right? With a limited set of the parameters, we try to solve the problem. So the input vector is your xt, your hidden state is the some non-linear activation function, and over here we are having the two weight matrix, right? One is the previous weight and the previous input, and another is the current weight matrix and the current input. And based on that, we have our new output. So for the next time, for t plus 1, this will be my y t minus 1. So this RNN, it can be represented as a computational graph uh, unrolled over the time. So what we do in RNN, we reuse the same weight matrix every time as we did in case of CNN, and it allow us to process the arbitrary temporal size of the input. So let's see how it works. So from the input, as you can see now, we associate some weights. So same weight has to be repeated on all the sequences. Then the update weight or your past weight. Then the weight from the hidden layer to the output layer. So this is your hidden layer, and your y naught hat is the output layer. So similarly, in the forward pass, now we need to apply the backpropagation steps over here. So in the forward pass, all the data is processed and your output is y naught hat or y1 hat, y2 hat up to yt hat. Then correspondingly, we are having the output as L0, L1, L2, and L3. Then we sum them all, we combine them all, and then we backpropagate. So this simple approach of RNN is also known as the backpropagation through time. So in the backpropagation, we know that we fed the input based on that is combined with the summation and input. Then correspondingly, we give the error, right? We propagate the error back into the system based on the gradient uh, derivation or gradient descent method. Then we shift the different parameters. The parameters over here are your weight and your bias value. So in case of forward pass, as I told you that the all the sequences are summed together, and I am having the final output as L, and then I identify the error, and then I backpropagate that error. I backpropagate that error in each you can say unit, as well as the this unit also give the error updation to the previous unit. So both way. So the standard RNN gradient flow is from the output or from the last neuron to the first neuron. Right. So we compute the gradient with respect to H naught, involve many factors of WHS. So what you can say that because of this now we are suffering from the vanishing gradient or exploding gradient problem. In case of vanishing gradient means let's say if this is your input, right? This is your function, and my value in that x is 0.1, or your error, because I am propagating my error. So if I am having large number of the past data, past sequences, then by the time it reaches to the first or second initial inputs, then that error almost vanishes, right? So this problem is known as vanishing gradient problem. The another is problem is that if I am having a very large value of x, then we have encountered the exploding gradient, right? So in case of the exploding gradient, we need to compute the gradient with respect to h naught, and then we fed back, right? Which involve various WHH values. So if it is greater than 1, then we have the exploding gradient. So gradient clipping is used in that case. If it is less than 1, then we have the vanishing gradient. So this vanishing gradient can be overcome using the activation function, can be used by the help of the weight initialization method or the neural architecture as well, right? So the vanishing gradient, as I told you, that if we multiply many small numbers together, then error due to the further back time step have smaller and smaller gradients. And because of that, your bias network, your network will be biased toward the short-term dependencies only. It will not consider the long-term dependency. So this will give a good result in case of the example. Let's say the cloud are in the, we know that the sky is there. So it is a very small sentence, so I can identify this. But if I am having a larger sentence with me, then at that time, this gradient, vanishing gradient problem dominates, and I am unable to identify the correct answer in it. Right. So the first method was the activation function using the ReLU activation function. It preserved the shrinking gradient when x is less than greater than 0. The second is the parameter initialization. We can use the identity matrix for the weights. And the third is with the help of the gates. So the idea over here is to use some more complex recurrent unit with the gates, we call them. So the gates, they are used in the another version of the RNN, that is the LSTM or GRU. This LSTM is the long short term memory, and it work based on the gate cell. So this gate basically help us to understand that or to decide that which information I need to store and which information I can forget. So this is a standard RNN or the vanilla RNN where each unit is your one whole sequence, and then similarly we have the different sequences. So it is not suitable for the sequence task like the text problem or the time series problem. Right? So we have to use some other concept. So LSTM is the answer for this. And LSTM basically was designed to remember the long-term sequences. The idea behind the LSTM is that this think of this as a conveyor belt, right? Uh, where thing comes and go on it with some minor modification in between, and based on that, in the meantime, you decide what to forget, what to remember, and what to output. So if I am having a word, let's say what to forget and what not to remember, and the word I am considering for that is Bob and Alice are having lunch. Bob like apples and Alice like orange. She is eating an orange. So we need to see in this that uh, who is eating what, right? So to store this, I have to maintain the past information as well. So LSTM maintains cell state CT. So this CT act as your conveyor belt, right? In conventional RNN, whatever come to the cell state, it stay there only. While in case of LSTM, it has the ability to add or remove the things from the cell state. And this addition or removal of the state is controlled through the gates. Now this gate, as you can see the diagram, this cross one with the sigma. So this gate is a sigmoid layer plus some pointwise operation. So gate optionally let information through using the sigmoid. It is a neural network and pointwise multiplication. So three sigmoid layer output are decided in this case. So let's see how this is the overall structure of the gate. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the LSTM, we are having three gates. One, then the LSTM tells you this first gate, right? Was basically your forget gate. It tells you to forget the irrelevant part of the previous state. Then we have the update gate where we update the past data, and whatever information we have forget so far, we club them together and then again we fed it. Then we have the output gate. We will see in detail how these works. So as I told you that this LSTM has three gates, and if the value is 0, then we completely forget that particular information. If it is 1, then we kept that value. So output is a number between 0 and 1. It determines how much information to retain or to forget. Right. So the first gate is your forget gate. They decide how much of the information in the current cell state we need to preserve. So in this we have this FT is the information after forgetting the things. So it is the combination of your sigmoid and the past information with your bias in it. So the Input in it is your xt as well as the input from the previous cell. Then we have the update gate. This update gate tells you what new information to store in the cell. Right, so it tells you that what value we will update over here. So this IT part is responsible for retaining the new information, while your this CT, that is after the 10H operation, it create a vector for the new candidate value in this. And this actually drop the old information and add new information about the subject gender, let's say that we consider in the example. Then we have, after this, now let's update the old cell state into a new cell state. So using this, we can retain that information. We can add that information now. Now we have the output gate. So in the output gate, we decide what should be passed to the next time instance and what should forget. So again, over here, it is a combination of your sigmoid layer and the 10H layer, right? So over here, we are having the sigmoid activation function, and here we are having the 10H. Now, after this, so this whole cell actually decide that what to retain and what not to retain. So after this step, we have to update the error. So in that case, we apply the same method of the backpropagation from CT to the CT minus 1 cell, and it require only element wise multiplication. Right, there's no matrix multiplication over here to avoid the vanishing gradient problem. Using this formula, CT is equal to ft into CT minus 1 plus IT into CT dash. So in case of LSTM, your gradient flow is uninterrupted in this way, right? And we overcome the vanishing gradient problem as well. So the main key points in the LSTM is that it maintains a separate cell state from what is outputted on. So each cell, if we go in detail of that, then we see that there are different gates in it. A forget gate basically helps you to get rid of the irrelevant information. Select only the update cell as well. This is similar to your mind as well, that every day if you have encountered lots of thoughts, so by, let's say, from the yoga, so this particular cell help you to keep calm, right? So you have different cells with you and or gate with you, and these gates help you to decide what thing you should forget, what thing you should take with you when you start a new thing, right? So the gate concept over here is similar to that only. The output gate return a filtered version of the cell state over here, and the backpropagation moves from CT to CT minus 1. So now this is the LSTM, and this LSTM can be used to generate different applications, as I have shown you in the video, first video of the AI, right? So in that automatic music was generated, right? So using the RNN, we were able to generate the new music. So you can say that if I have given the input as the AR Rahman music, right? And I want to generate a music similar to what AR Rahman will generate. So using RNN, I can also do that. This is possible in today's world. Another is the sentimental classification. So based on the word, you can identify the sentimental. You can also translate from English to Hindi, Hindi to English, and likewise. So RNN is one of the best way for that. The another good example that I found of the RNN was that if you have given your input in a text format, and initially you have given your hand writing as your input as well, so automatically it will generate the handwriting generation for you, right, from the text. So RNN is also useful in that case. This is a good problem. You may try if you are interested in using the RNN for some of the applications. Beside this, as I told you, that this can be used in the video description generation. Uh, and coming to our today's topic, that is the Bitcoin price prediction. So your LSTM is one of the best way to uh, go with the stock market or the Bitcoin price market prediction models, right? So now let's see a case study of the Bitcoin price prediction using the deep learning. Few of my scholars they worked on this uh, in 2019, uh, and they have also identified the influence of the social media and the web search on the short-term Bitcoin price fluctuation. So by now, I hope all of you are aware that this Bitcoin is the kind of new internet currency, right? Earlier, we used to have the cells and gold and the other uh, ways of for the business, right? For the notes and the bank credit card are generally used nowadays. But now, with the help of the Bitcoins, you may also use that as a internet currency. So this Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer internet currency that allow the decentralized transfer of values between the individual and the business. So the bigger term over here is the Bitcoin. So it's a system, and the Bitcoins are the unit in it. Right? So it's a parallel system similar to your bank. Most popular currency is the Bitcoin. There are different type of the cryptocurrency that exist, and Bitcoin is the most popular among them. It operate on the decentralized and peer-to-peer trustless system, and all the transactions are managed using the open ledger called the blockchain. It is highly volatile in the nature, and you can say the Bitcoin has grown significantly over past few years, right? And it was created in 2008, and it has gone through various phases of criticism and the growth. There was an issue that whether each country have to decide it is legal or illegal. In India, it is illegal nowadays. Uh, but the idea behind this was the uh, new, or you can say new idea was there in this case. And overall, the idea was that the transition should be secure. Nobody should know that who is having that particular uh, value or units. Right. So it's nothing but it's a digital code only. So the question, obvious question, is that uh, if I have the code, why don't I copy and paste and make more money? But to overcome this, we have used the timestamp hash and the blockchain uh, features in it. The blockchain basically records the longest correct chain, and we consider that longest blockchain is the correct code. So nobody can repeat that. Uh, and the timestamp is also there, so each transaction is packaged and publicly recorded so that you maintain all the records, and it is secure with the help of some hash coding, right? So if we talk about the Indian scenario, then in today's world, one Bitcoin is equal to 7,93,324. This is the figure of yesterday's figure, right? So there was a time when it is equal to one more than less than 1 rupee, but because of this price, now people are interested in the Bitcoin, and they try to trade over here. As you can see, the overall graph here as well, there is a downfall over here because of the different countries' policies. In a day, also, if you see, then there is a 300 around dollar difference, right? And there was one instance that a person buy only 45 Bitcoin earlier in less than 115 uh, dollar, but after 4 5 years he was able to buy this Lamborghini of so much cost, right? So because of that, people got interested in this. The different organization, they also accept the Bitcoin, but again there are certain uh, ethical issues is there with this type of the currency. And again, even your hackers nowadays, because it is so much secure that they are demanding the ransom in the form of the Bitcoins. Recently, as you are also aware, that the hackers, they hack the profile of few uh, public figures, right? Twitter handle, and then they ask for the Bitcoins as well. So in this particular project, we try to apply the traditional method, that is the linear regression, polynomial regression, and the RNN and LSTM, and to identify the price of the Bitcoin, right? And based on the RMSE and map, we try to identify the significance of our model. So for the data was collected from the Kaggle between the 23rd Feb 2010 uh, to 25 2018. Then we also have a record of the Twitter sentiments and the tweet volumes and the Google trend to identify whether the Twitter and the Google trend influence my overall Bitcoin price or not. Then we apply some pre-processing techniques on it, and then we analyze the output for the daily prediction, for the monthly prediction, for the yearly prediction. And we were able to identify that with the help of the LSTM, our error was RMSE error was reduced to 12.960 for the daily data, and for the monthly data as well. It was around 17.1810 for LSTM. Likewise, for the quarterly, again, this LSTM was giving best result overall. Then we compare this with respect to the social media and the sentiment analysis and the tweet volumes. There was a correlation found between the Bitcoin price and the uh, Twitter volume with respect to the Bitcoin related terms. And the correlation was somewhere in around 0.79 for the Google trend. And overall accuracy was find out to be 77 point for the with respect to the tweet volume, and Google trend was 66 for the polynomial regression. And for RNN and LSTM, the accuracy was not that much when we are considering the uh, trend of the Google and the tweets. So we identify that the uh, tweet sentiment show a poor correlation with the Bitcoin price. The average popularity of all the tweets are summing up a positive irrespective of the price of the Bitcoin. And the possible reason behind this may be that the people tweet about the Bitcoin. It's not like that they are interested to buying the Bitcoin. It may be the reason that they are interested in the other technological aspect of the Bitcoin, for example, the privacy or the blockchain. So this tweet volume and Google Trend is used as input in the final model. And with this, we can conclude that with the help of the deep learning methods, we can identify the cost as well. There was another paper recently in 2019 where the researcher they explored the DNN, LSTM, CNN, and combination of LSTM and CNN as well to identify the price or to predict the price, right? So they applied the CNN model where they have considered the 18 parameters for m number of the days, and they have used a two-dimension convolution layer in that, and 36 vector size using all the different layers that we discussed. Flattened layer is there, fully connected is there. So the aim of showing you this is that we can use the CNN method for identifying the sequential data as well. Earlier, the CNN was applied only to the images only, but now we need to see how we can transfer or how we can project the sequential data to the matrix format so that we can apply the CNN model as well. The another good thing in that particular paper was that they have combined the CNN as well as LSTM. Right, so they have combined this CNN and LSTM, and they call it as a CRNN with the different operations, and again they were able to extract the price based on this. So the takeaway from this particular session is that we can apply the CNN as well for the sequential data. The only thing is that we need to see how we can transfer or how we can project the data, sequential data in a matrix format so that we can apply the CNN architecture on it. Then RNN is well suited for the sequential modeling task. Model sequence via a recurrent relation is possible. We train the RNN using the backpropagation method, and then in LSTM we overcome the problem of vanishing gradient with the help of the different gates. And gates basically helps you to understand the pattern, that which pattern you need to store for longer term and which pattern you need to store for short term. So that's why it's also known as the long short term memory. The model for the sequential data and the music generation, classification, machine translation, LSTM can be used for that. And combination of the different methods or different models can be used for the solving some real-time problem. With this, I am ending this session. I'm thankful to the Eva for some of the slides have been considered from her notes. So now I'm open to question now. If you have any question, feel free to ask. We will discuss.
You can post your question in the chat box also.
So sir, I think I don't think कि कोई भी क्यूरी किसी की भी तरफ से इस टाइम पर है. So thank you sir for your imparting your knowledge to all of us. and thanks to all that you all listen to our cast so well. So again, thanks to all. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next session should be start within 15 minutes. So please be with us.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Chandprakash ji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Okay, sir.
inviting me. If you have
Okay, sir.
any issue, you can always drop me a mail. So
Okay, sir.
if you have any doubt,
Sir,
in
if
the-
possible, can you share your PPT? Because
Yes,
some of the participants are asking about it.
I have uploaded it on my webpage. I will share the link with you so that you can also
Okay,
forward
sir.
it to the
Okay, sir. Thank you.
participants.
Okay, sir.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.